Breakfast. My name is Andrea, and I'm so happy you are here, and you are so welcome here. So, journaling is a passion, and in this episode, which is episode 3 of Journals for Breakfast, we're going to talk about the kind of journaling that is, I think, the fastest journaling that you can do every day. If you start this practice, you get to check the box that you've done some form of journaling, but it is quick. This journaling practice that I'm going to share today is proven science for serotonin releases, so that's good. And I will tell you that this little practice I started in mid-March. It's currently late May, and I started it to sort of build a happiness habit, if you will, and help combat my burnout. And it is working. I am here to report I have had remarkable results with this little practice. So what is it that we're talking about in episode 3? What we're talking about today is a new kind of habit tracker. Okay, so I think we all have some form of habit tracker in our lives. There's apps like MyFitnessPal or Noom that are focused on diet and fitness. You can go in and dive with your habit tracker, calories. There's a lot. It's a habit tracker. It's telling you every day how many steps I take, how to sleep well. Some of us just have some water to take care of. That type of habit tracker is absolutely valuable. I think that it can be important. What happened but it's task oriented to me to some degree, right? It's about, did you work out, did you drink water, did you eat the right food, did you take enough steps? Whatever it is, that habit you're trying to build, to me, is a little tasky sometimes. And I was really fighting over my burnout days. This is back in the day when it was worse. That type of tracking actually started to build benefits. And what I mean is that I was running into this energy that was time, I was burnt out, so procrastination started. Instead of that joy of serotonin box, what I discovered is that I had a lot of things on. That was starting to so I kind of backed off the habit tracking for a while, and I have a video on this YouTube page, like if you kind of scroll through videos, that actually wasn't built for this channel. I only just started Journals for Breakfast last month, but I have a business here. I run a small cooking school, and I do a YouTube channel that's tied in with that cooking school. And we started filming some videos last year called What's Feeding Me with Chef Andrea, where I wouldn't necessarily talk about food specifically like I had been in the videos prior to that. I started talking about more what was feeding me as a person. And within that, I did a video about habit tracking for a peaceful life, right? And that was the beginning of me starting to use a habit tracker that was built into a planner that I use now, but in a way that didn't feel so task-oriented. So that's what started this. But as it turns out, in March of this year, I realized that I almost was kind of in the habit of thinking at the end of each day, this sort of sensation would come over me at the end of each day of like, whew, I survived another one, And my sister texted me one day and said, "How was your day?" And my knee-jerk response was going to be this like long-winded text about how it was a fine day, class went great, people seemed happy, I'm exhausted, but you know what I mean? But let me follow that up with all the things that are tiring about my world. And I thought, wait a minute. The answer to her question is good. How was your day? It was good. I had a good day. And so the next morning when I got up, I decided to, instead of journaling that day, I decided to do a little Google search. And I Googled, how can I be happy? And a cool website popped up that I've linked in the description of this. So if you click on this description box, there's the link. And it's a great website. I actually signed up for their newsletter. I don't get a lot from them. It's not like constant all the time. So if you're interested in that. And in this article that I found on their website, they had a how to be happy in 27 steps. So what they had listed out were daily habits for happiness. Then they listed out monthly habits for happiness, and then yearly habits for happiness. And I thought, habits, that's what a tracker is. Trackers track our habits. Are we in the habit of drinking enough water? Are we in the habit of working out every day? So it's a habit tracker that they're giving you the language for. So I decided to build a habit tracker based on happiness. And, you know, science has proven without a doubt that those of us who do like trackers, we are to-do listers. Most of us with a to-do list, we just get such a kick out of running that line through the task that is done. And we also love, like a lot of us will put at the bottom of the list, finish to-do list. Like we just can't get enough box checking and line writing. Science has proven why that is. That success is an immediate serotonin release. So a feel-good hormone starts pouring through our body each time we do that. So just the exercise itself, as I share with you here how I feel about pen and paper journaling, just that action it's proven science. It is a release of serotonin, and it just floods our body with feel-good chemicals. So daily habits, I built a tracker that I'm going to show you guys. And I will show you a little overhead of how to set it up, and what to track, what my favorite things are. Some of the things that I'm tracking came from that website, their 27 Habits to Happiness. Include things like smile, exercise, get plenty of sleep, eat with mood in mind. That's kind of an interesting one. They list for you what foods release serotonin and dopamine, which are anti-inflammatory, and which are depressants. So processed foods are depressants. If you are having a low day, I know that temptation to drive through feels right. It's actually the absolute opposite of what we need. So I thought that was interesting. Practice gratitude, give a compliment. That was one of their suggestions. I thought that's a cool one, isn't it? How often are we quiet, you know, in the grocery store, and we could say something lovely to the person in front of us about their bag or their shirt or something. Breathe deeply. Keep a journal. Anyway, I'll do an overhead here, and let's take a look at the ones that I set up for my very first month of March, and then how they've evolved a little bit to give you some, hopefully, inspiration in things that you might want to start tracking. I will also say I'm tracking a lot of things in this journey because this is just what fuels me, and I absolutely love this. But as I share with you here always, I do never want anything that we offer to be overwhelming in the concept of journaling. Pick 3 of these, right? Pick one that you just don't do every day and you want to incorporate. This doesn't need to be burdensome. This should be a release, and it should be enjoyable. So yeah, we're going to do a little setup on that. And then I'm going to come back and join you face to face, and we're going to talk about gratitude versus truths, and how defining those 2 things for me helped me through some dark burnout and keeps me from falling into burnout, or helps pull me back out of it when I land in it. And then we will do a tarot reading at the end of this as well. I'll pull a card for us so we have some inspiration to carry us on until the next video. Okay, so let's go to an overhead. Okay, so here we are in the land of overhead, and this is my habit tracker. Now, this is just a simple notebook. Look how cute these are. Is this adorable? I bought this at Barnes & Noble. I had no purpose for it when I bought it. It just was too cute to leave it there. I will say that when it comes to notebook purchases, if I find one that's speaking to me, I grab it. I have never let one go to waste. If for some reason I had a notebook that I just thought was the cutest thing ever, and could not find a purpose for it, I would gift it so I can still find a purpose for it. So I love having extra notebooks, and you know, when you see one you love. Now this one is lined, and that's all it is. It's not dated. It doesn't have any grid dots, anything. It's just lined. So I just really wasn't sure what I would do with it, but I will share that what a notebook's paper looks like does not always define to me how I use that page. So I don't mind throwing collages right on top of lined paper and things like that. I mention that because there's some of you out there who are like, whoa, oh my gosh, could you just put a collage over lined paper? I get it. We have these kind of ideas about how space is meant to be used. I kind of get a little thrill out of throwing stuff like this onto paper and into planners that weren't meant for it. Is that weird? Probably. Okay. I always like to put a little movement into my journal pages too. So let's take a look at the habits and what we set up. So I call this the Get Happy Journal. Let's do this. March of 2024 is when I began this. And I told you I got online, Googled how can I be happy, found the website. They had 27 habits to happiness. These were some of their daily ones. Now I also threw in here a few that are mine, like number 9, keep a journal. That actually, I'm not positive that that's in theirs, but I feel like it is. So some of their habits were smile. Of course they said exercise, but here's what they mentioned, even tiny amounts, like a walk after dinner, a beginner yoga or Tai Chi. And I mentioned that because, as I said in the beginning, my habit tracker was about workouts, water, laundry. It was very task mastery. And when things were missing, boxes weren't getting filled, it was starting to weigh me down. I was feeling like I was failing at something. So I was a little reticent about that exercise one. And yet then they mention even little bits. Mind you, I walk my dog about 6 miles a day. Like I get basic exercise, but I'm a taskmaster to myself sometimes, and I demand a lot of myself sometimes. I have to be careful about that. Get plenty of sleep. Let me tell you what I'm good at. Sleep. Eat with mood in mind. That's the one I was mentioning that I thought was so interesting. So vegetable, beans, and whole grains release serotonin. Lean meat, poultry, and dairy release dopamine. Omega-3 fish is an anti-inflammatory. So are you feeling kind of puffed up? Are you feeling a little low? Well, how about some salmon over quinoa for dinner tonight, and watch that anti-inflammatory serotonin combo lift you up when you get up tomorrow morning feeling like you got a better spring in your step. I think it's just a really interesting concept. And mind you, in my other life, I am a chef, and we talk a lot about this kind of stuff in my cooking school. Practice gratitude. Okay, I'm going to talk a deep dive about that when we go back to a face-to-face. Give a compliment. I love that one. Breathe deeply. I have got to force myself to breathe at some point throughout the day. As my day goes on, my shoulders get higher and higher and higher, closer and closer to my earlobes is what I say. And I have to just shake that out and take a breath sometimes. I'll mention that in the gratitude practice too. Acknowledge the unhappy moments. Listen, if it's not feeling great, sit with that for a minute. It's okay. What I'll say about acknowledging unhappy moments is that rather than drink them away, eat them away, distract them away, if we just sit and be with them for a minute, what I've discovered for myself with that is that I can remind myself of a couple of important things about unhappy moments. One, they are moments. The way I am feeling at that absolute moment in time is no guarantee that I'm going to feel that way ever again in an hour, and certainly not forever. When you're feeling rough in a moment, it is hard to remind yourself that this is not permanent. This is just this moment. The other thing that acknowledging the unhappy moments reminds me about is that we can be more than one thing at a time. I can be unhappy about this specific thing, but also be generally a happy person. I can still love my life while also being a bit stressed by it. We are not single item creatures. We can be multiple things at a time. So acknowledging the unhappy moments. Now, I do that so sort of naturally as part of my daily journaling practice, burnout practice, that I didn't add that to my tracker, but I think it would be an interesting one if that's not a practice that you have worked on yet. Keep a journal, face stress head on. For those of us who tend to procrastinate when the burnout is heavy, This is a good one. Maybe put this in your habit tracker the month before a big event or something coming down the road, a deadline or something like that, to just tell you every day to just keep with this. And then the next month, leave this one out. It may not be as important every month. Excuse me. Avoid comparing yourself to others. Woo. That's hard, isn't it? Especially in this world of, Instagram and Facebook and all of that. But you know where that stands with you, I hope. And so pay attention to that one. Then they have weekly habits that you could put into your tracker: declutter, see friends, plan your week. And then monthly, give back. So maybe some volunteering or donations that you do. Lots of good ones. So I'm going to let you go through some of these on their website yourself. And then yearly habits, like take care of your body. Don't forget to get those checkups. So I thought that was really cool. And my very first month of setting this up starts on March 10th, because that's when I started it. And I really used a lot of theirs: smile, exercise, eat to feel good, gratitude, give a compliment, breathe, journal, face stress head on, avoid comparison. This was not on their list, but it's on mine: kiss your dog, tidy, planner check-in, read, turn off phone, avoid social for 24 hours, yoga, weights, recovery action, which is really about meetings that I attend and support groups I work with other women in the area as well, facial, knit, collage or art, sewing, hydration, sleep, and why I'm happy in today moment. That's kind of that acknowledge those feelings sort of tracking. Check this out. Yoga, 1, 2, 3, 4, lots of gaps here. So here's where I want to warn you about something. This happiness tracker is meant to produce serotonin, to feel good checking off feel good items. If this big gap here is going to create weight for you, then just eliminate it. Just don't worry about that. In my other video about tracking for for sort of more of a peaceful existence, I mentioned that I try not to track exercise a whole lot. I know when I work out and I'm proud of it, and I don't necessarily need to track it every time. But here it was. Look at this one, sewing. Well, my sewing machine did not come out last month. I just didn't have time for it. Oh, sorry, that line is here. That's okay. It was something I thought about putting in there, and I realized after this month that maybe I need to leave that out if that big white gap is sort of chewing at me, bugging me a little bit, feeling like somehow I failed at something. So create a happy life, a little bit of journaling. On we go to April. And so it shifts up a little bit here. And in this one, kiss your dog, be in nature. I'm in nature every day when I walk my dog. But did I stop and acknowledge it, right? So I really make myself put him, Echo will sit down next to me and just rest for a minute, and I can just take a moment now. When I am in nature, that is when I have a moment to pause and breathe. And that is a nice opportunity for prayer. It is a nice opportunity for gratitude. All of those boxes get checked in about maybe 60 seconds sometimes, when I just stop at the marsh, breathe in the smell of the oyster beds and the salt water, listen to the birds for a moment, close my eyes, a moment of gratitude for this space and this nature, breathe in deeply, maybe a moment of prayer for just a prayer of thanks, and then exhale, open my eyes, take that view in one more time. So, I don't need to go on a 12-mile hike to be in nature. I don't need to pack and go to Yosemite to get there. These can happen just in the course of my regular day. This happens before 7:30 in the morning. Create before I consume. I talked about that in the last episode. So check out episode, I think, 1 or 2. I talk about that. And under episode number 1, there's comments. There's not many because I'm the one who's made most of the comments, and they are links to various YouTubers. And the one who gave me this concept, create before you consume, I put her link in there too. She does a lot of talk about burnout as a parent. So if that is valuable to you, I highly recommend you check her out. Create before you consume. For me, that means that this phone stays off until I've done something creative or that nature moment, etc. Hydrate. pause, smile, gratitude. Look at this one. Recall your past to love today. You guys, I was a workaholic and had a really intense schedule for most of my adult life. I mean, we're talking 80-hour weeks for years and years and years at a time. And every once in a while, I need to take a moment to look back at where was I Wednesday at 10 a.m. 7 years ago, right? And whoa, it's a different place than where I am now. And I think that that's part of acknowledging your feelings. I think that that's part of gratitude. I think it all falls in there. Things I love to do every day if I can: art, knit, read, walk. I threw yoga in here. Look what happened to yoga in April. Boop, fail. Okay. Clean eating. That's not going to happen every day, right? Like, we're going to have our moments. Either we're too busy for it and we deal with what we've got, or we intentionally take a day off and just have some fun. Journaling, a coffee break. A coffee break for me is, sat down, mug in two hands, sip of delicious coffee with my eyes closed and just took it in. Right? I'm not talking about mindless coffee on the go in the morning while doing 700 things. Coffee break. I was doing a book called 30 Days of Watercolor. I'll show you these two books, by the way. And I started out pretty strong and then kind of was running out of time. I had a really busy month. This is Everyday Watercolor by Jenna Rainey. Learn to paint watercolor in 30 days. And it's literally like a step-by-step as you go through some compound brush strokes, learning primary colors, things like that. So highly recommend. And I also highly recommend Jenna Rainey on YouTube. Her videos are really enjoyable. So that was a practice that I was trying. And then an actual online friendship that I've built into an offline friendship mentioned to me, Sherry mentioned this beautiful book, Painting Calm. And it's another kind of guided watercolor, projects, foliage, flowers, light structure. But holy cow, this artist, just absolutely beautiful. If you bought the book and just sat with your coffee break and just enjoyed looking at these gorgeous images, that would be a serotonin lift. Aren't you feeling better already just looking at this? I am. Oh, look at that painting of that palette. That is absolutely breathtaking. All right, I'm getting off track here. Anyway, here's the artist. I'll never pronounce that last name. I'll try it. Buidavice. Buidavice? There's my attempt at it. Inga Buidavice. So check her out on Instagram as well. Her page is really cool. And this book, you can see it's not a very big book, which I kind of dig. I was carrying it around in my backpack for no real reason. It just felt good to have it. Okay. So 30 days of watercolor, a planner check-in. That's a little tasky, but I need to do that to keep my head on track. Tidy. Turn off the phone, no social for 24 hours, a facial, give a compliment. And I had started some treadmill workouts that month, so I sort of trepidatiously ran a little line there to add those in. Good for me. It looks like I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Woo! Nice job, girl. Mind you, that's on top of my walking, so I don't know why I make myself do that. Okay, so this month, May, we have set up with some of the same habits. Nothing major that's changed here, except to say that I switched out yoga and treadmill for extra workout. So if I pick up weights or do something, there it is. And I've had a few of those this month. Good on you, girl. And then I'll leave this one blank because you can see there is some bleed through. I use highlighters. So one column is one color. Like this is the 10th, and I used that orange yellow all day long there. So if this looks like blah of color, there is actually rhyme and reason to it. So I used pink all day on the 15th and just filled in those blocks. I've already started setting up June, and the way that I do it is that I take, you can see where I am here. I take a blank piece of paper, I take a beautiful ruler, I run a line here, zoink, to create a space to write in all the things I want to track. And then I just use this ruler, come across the lines that are already there, and just draw a line down. And it creates those boxes. And then it also creates for me the space to put the date. So 6/1, 6/2. And I just at some point stop and make a count, make sure I'm getting at least 30 of these across. But I've had no trouble with that in this book month by month. Of course, if you bought a notebook that was already grid, you could double check it, make sure you had 15 squares on either side to be sure you had your 30 days in. And I have a video on my Instagram page. So if you found me here, don't forget to check me out over on Instagram at Journals for Breakfast, because that is where I post stuff daily. I do a lot of prompts and photos and affirmations and things of that nature. And there's an overhead. If you go to the grid and look for the videos, you know, that little video icon is there. Click the one that is this, you'll see this exact image basically on that. And there's a video of me setting that up if that's of appeal to you. So there it is, the habit trackers for happiness. Let's come back face to face, and I want to talk a little bit about gratitude versus truths, and we need to do a tarot reading as well. I will mention while I've got you in an overhead what I'm pulling our tarot from. Guardian of the Night Tarot is what I'll pull our card from for this week, and this is by MJ. This one's tough for me, Cullinane. It's a 78 deck and guidebook, and it is absolutely beautiful. I buy my tarot decks based on the artwork. You know, the standard tarot is standard. I mean, it is what it is. But this particular one, the artwork in it is so beautiful. And what I mean by standard tarot is, you know, the standard tarot cards: Fool, Magician, High Priestess, Empress, and then of course all the suits: swords, cups, wands, etc. But what I like to do is find decks that the artwork is really beautiful. And while we're at it, let's just look at some of the artwork in here together. So you can see, and she uses animals in this one to represent the message from that particular suit or card, and she'll tell you a little bit in the book about the animal, why that animal was the one she chose for that particular card. Look at the Queen of Swords. I could frame that. Is that absolutely gorgeous? Seven of Pentacles. And so she'll have something in there about the spider. And then I also look to see if there's anything else. These fireflies might be mentioned when you do the final reading on that card. She has a purpose for the animals she chooses. Look how absolutely good. Look at this. Jeez Louise. I mean, is that a power card or what? King of Wands. So he's got a snake. I know those usually represent change and transformation. There's a raven or a crow on top of the lion. I'll be really curious to see. Y'all want to read that one? Let's read that one today. Let's let that be our guide. Anyway, these are beautiful. Look at that. Aren't they gorgeous? I mean, you could just hang out with this forever. I found this one at Barnes & Noble, so not tricky to get a hold of. I will mention that these tarot decks are Hay House publication, and I've noticed online that they produce lots and lots of types of tarot decks. This one is Guardians of the Night. We'll read our card when we come face to face in a moment, but if you're interested in that one, there it is. I use these, by the way, tarot cards, as inspiration for collages sometimes as well. If I'm just looking for a place to pull some inspiration, I'll pull a card, read the story about it, and then piece together a collage based on the images that come to my mind from that reading. So fun. Okay, I'll see you face to face in a moment. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the Habits for Happiness tracker concept. I'll be really curious to see if you put something like that together, and please feel free to reach out and let me know if you do, either in the comments here on YouTube or over at Instagram, Journals for Breakfast. Would love to hear what you decide to do. I am amazed to report to you that I went into that thinking this will be kind of fun and journaly, right? Why wouldn't I do it? This is what I do. It's made a big impact. It's made a big impact on my day-to-day. My low days are fewer and far between than they were without it. So there's that story. Gratitude versus truths. Okay, so in the discussion about habit tracking for happiness, I've talked to some girlfriends about this, and I'm in a women's group on Thursdays, and we got chit-chatting about this too. What is the difference? Because there's gratitude lists, and several of them have been practicing keeping this like daily gratitude list. And some of them have set like they have to come up with 5 things daily or 10 things daily or 1 thing daily, whatever it is. But they have to sit down and write down this gratitude list. And many have said it's been really beneficial, that it definitely kind of forces their mind to step away from the habit of, I don't know if things are good enough, and into the, well, this one thing is really lovely, right? And I think that there's no question that the psychology behind that is very sound. Gratitude lists are a great happiness habit tracker concept. There's no question about it. But I was going to share with you that this summer, gratitude started to fail me. I was in a place of extreme fatigue, really more so than burnout this last summer. I was just exhausted. I'd been working so hard to come through the burnout, to make all of the changes that we needed to change. And then we had one heavy thing after another. And the last heavy thing was this flood in our house last February. And by summer of last year, we finally had floors. Things were pieced back together, and I just hit the wall. I was just exhausted. I would work, come home, get cleaned up, and fall asleep for 3 hours. Like, it was just, I was wiped. One of the things that started happening to me in that extreme fatigue phase of the deep months of last summer was that this voice of self-contempt started to take over my subconscious. He just was, and I give him a he because he was just, I don't know, loud, and he was very vocal, and he started creeping in, and I couldn't shake him out. And he would tell me things like, see if this resonates with you at all. You've probably had something along these lines. I would go to lunch with some women, and then on my way home think, you talk too much. You talk too much. You shouldn't have said so much at lunch. Why did you talk so much? Or coming back from a meeting, I might say, when you said that, did it offend her? Did she know that you weren't talking about her? That's not, you get what I'm going, there are these little subtle, it wasn't like you are a terrible person and I hate you. It wasn't that obvious. It was just these, you're not quite good enough. You might have been a jerk just then. Did you possibly offend somebody? Have you possibly not been perfect today? Like, it was just seeping in. And it really started taking over. I would come home from a class, and on the way home, like in the car, I'd be thinking, you talked too much. I am a teacher. I'm teaching a lesson. They came to me to hear me talk, and I'd be condemning myself for never being able to stop running my mouth. It was wacky. What I can say is that gratitude at that moment started to fail me a bit. It was not quite as strong as I needed. It was kind of arm floaties, and I was out to sea. I needed a lifeline off, a Coast Guard rescue boat. Arm floaties weren't going to do it for me. And I switched from gratitude because also, can I say this about gratitude? I have to be careful because I'm not as creative about written gratitude. I do get a little bit of a paralysis when I sit down to a blank gratitude list, and I kind of think, I am thankful for air conditioning. I am grateful for washing machines. Like, I have a really hard time drawing this like creative gratitude out. And so I switched gears to a hardier lifeline, which was truths. So what I would do to counterbalance that voice, which, by the way, I do not talk too much in my classes. And when I went to lunch with those ladies, I did not offend anybody, and none of them felt like I spoke too much. This was a self-created, wacky thing going on. What I did was counterbalance that untruth, because those were not true statements coming in, with something that was true. And it wasn't my perception of truth. I had to find something absolutely in stone, for real, that happened that day and write it down. So for example, I could go up to the register after a class and find out that 2 students from that class on their way out signed up for the class that is the day after tomorrow. Okay? Voice of doubt that you don't do a good job, shouldn't. 2 of them are coming back in 48 hours. You can believe that or not, but it is real. Their money's in the register. This is happening. So You get what I'm saying about truthful things? Or if you sell products, this many items were purchased and are beloved by the people who purchase them. Whether I think I am a failure or not in this moment, that is a real thing. Truths. So I started writing them down, and if I couldn't find a truth for the day, I reread truths from last week. And y'all, I did that all summer long. It started to work. It was slow at first, and I didn't believe the own truths. I'd write them down and be like, whatever, maybe that's real. They're real. These are facts. Whew, that went a long way. And I've discovered now that if I am having a low day, and I do have them, a burnout day, if I can step back into truths for a minute, that really can cure some problems. And I will say this about burnout. Often our burnout is mired in feelings about something that it turns out isn't true. For example, a lot of times in burnout, we feel stuck, and we are not stuck. That is not true. There is an exit. There is a path. If we go big picture, it might seem like we're stuck. I'm burned out and I don't know how to sell my business and move to a yurt in Alaska. Okay, that's big picture. Let's go smaller picture. Is there some portion of it that could be eliminated, that could be lessened, that could bring some relief? So watch those big pictures and tell yourself the truth. And what are you feeling? Is it anchored in truth or not? Dig down in there. Acknowledge the feeling, but then find out, is that true or not? And for gratitude, rather than write down what I'm grateful for me, a moment of quiet, breathing in nature. A car doesn't go by for 3 minutes, and I am grateful for that moment. Gratitude for me is something I feel internally, and that works better for me than trying to list out things that I'm grateful for. But some of you are masters at the gratitude list too, and it is the same tool. But I just wanted to share that about the truths. Okay, this is getting long-winded. Let's wrap this episode up with a reading. And as we decided, let's go with the King of Wands. It just picked us today. It's so pretty. Isn't that beautiful? Let's see what she has to say. I hope my lighting doesn't glare out at you terribly. These are cups. Let's find wands. There's wands. Let's get up to the king, knight, queen, King of Wands. So then you just look in the guidebook and read her description. So let's read that together. Okay, King of Wands. When I think of the King of Wands, I think of an older, sophisticated, perhaps worldly gentleman who has mastered the balance between being assertive and aggressive. He knows the carrots to dangle in front of a group that will get them energized and excited. He is aware of his voice's power and how to articulate his vision with a sense of drama so that all those within earshot become instantly intrigued. He is debonair, bold, and outspoken, yet at the same time, refined and in tune with the room. He knows how to turn on the charisma at just the right time to get what he wants. When you are paid a visit by the king, you are directed to call upon your creativity and channel the entrepreneur within. Your situation will benefit from adding some flair, from taking extra steps that show off your expertise. Your time has come to stand up, stake your claim, and be audacious, because when you present your talents to the world, the unique skills you bring to the situation, your originality, will be rewarded. It is not the size of the lion's roar that demands attention and respect. It is the emotion and vision behind it. Use the lion's energy when you need to create a commanding presence and when you need a little extra burst of courage to get up in front of a crowd. No one needs to tell the lion he is the king of the jungle. He knows it deep within. And when you call upon his spirit, you too will be infused with his power, his grace, his passion for living. The lion: passion, command, authority, royalty, power, and prestige. What a beautiful message. I love this. And for you to take away from this, when you present your talents to the world, the unique skills that you bring to the situation, your originality will be rewarded. Remember that as you move forward this week. That, my friends, is a truth. Write that one down and remember it every day. And remember it when you're having that little bit of doubt. King of Wands. I love that. Let's look at the card one more time. There you go. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me at Journals for Breakfast. It's lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for those who've commented on the other videos. I love the community that we are building here, and I am excited to see it move forward. Join me on Instagram at Journals for Breakfast. If you are an Instagrammer, I do a lot of posts there and would be so happy to hear from you about how things are going with you. Next time I'm with you for episode 4, we're going to talk a little bit about burnout. One of the tools I use to keep it at bay, but also pull myself out of one that I'm in, is a clarification of motivation. How about that as a teaser? We'll talk a lot about that next time. Meanwhile, keep on journaling, keep on using stickers and collage and painting. Be true to yourself. Remind yourself who you are. You are so valuable, and I really appreciate you being here.